let's start this off with a question. Ladies, if you were stranded on an island and you were stuck with an asshole like my friend over here and a nice guy like myself, who would you pick?
And that is the most important question in this entire film. We just watched this movie called Crossworlds. Where they go to 3 places, so I guess...
They go across the world.
They go across the worlds.
Around the world.
Around the world.
Around the world.
I mean, I guess that's kind of accurate because Crossworlds is the name of like the interdimension place.
Yeah. So just a heads up about this movie. It was actually really well made, but the worst movie we've seen so far.
I'll agree with the fact that it's like the most technically well-made movie that we've reviewed so far. But the story made less sense than Despiser.
Yeah.
It was a movie that had the most, I want to say the most like reach. Like whoever like made this movie had connections. They had networking done within like Hollywood or around Hollywood because they filmed at some decent locations throughout the movie. Like,
yeah. Well, let's give a rundown of the lore, the story.
Oh boy.
So
the and then storytelling.
Yeah. Do you want to, Aiden? Do you want to start us off? Hit us with the beginning.
So it starts off on Earth, present day, which is a very important detail.
Which is so
not once in the movie do they ever specify another given
time or anything.
Present day.
It's 2023.
I bet you I could run through
Los
this
Angeles
whole,
present day.
I bet you I could run through this whole movie using and then statements in like 30 seconds. Joe goes to a party and then his friends tell him to talk to a girl and then he sees a girl across the way and then he goes to bed and then he wakes up and the girl's there and then they get shot at and then they drive and meet this other guy and then they go to a museum and then they get a stick and then they go to the desert and then they go to the Crossworlds and then he gets sent out and then he tries to go back and then he meets another guy and then they lead him to the place and then they go to the hotel and then they fight and then they win.
That sums it up. But let's okay. Let me paint a picture for you. It's the biggest virgin you've ever met. Some guy named Joseph. He's such a loser. He doesn't even
Talbot.
Yeah, Joseph Talbot, and he doesn't like it when his friends call him Joe. He's like, "Guys, my name's Joseph." Anyway, they're in a
whole
party.
thing in the end is
his best friend Jack Black and
Which was so weird. Like Jack Black,
token black friend were.
Jack Black was Steve, and the other friend was Stu, and it's just weird to see Jack Black in this.
Yeah,
I looked it up just right as we were starting to record this. So this is 1996, so it's 4 years before Jack Black's big break.
You got over that. You know what I'm saying? You know what his problem is? What? You have no vices.
What are you talking about? I got plenty of vices. I got vices.
Ha ha! Show him what a vice is. Yes! Now that's a vice.
That had to have hurt.
It did, kinda.
his friends are like in this party and they're like, dude, this hot chick wants to talk to you, bro. You gotta go out and talk to her, dude. And they're like, it's like a way too long of a conversation, and Jack Black's like yelling it, so it's like you can only imagine that everyone at this party is hearing Jack Black be like, dude, go talk to her, go, you can do it.
Go talk to her.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's say that you are stranded on a desert island, okay, and you got to choose between two guys, okay?
No, I'm not doing this.
No, wait. One guy, okay, he's like him. Right?
Like
Yeah,
a
he's full of
soldier,
himself,
man.
he's loud, obnoxious, stupid, okay? Well, the other
I
okay.
can't.
To be fair, like I think every scene Jack Black is in, he does a good job. It's enjoyable to watch him.
He's probably the best actor in this show.
I mean, it's clear to see based off of
Anyway,
everyone's careers.
He goes and he asks the girl the question that I asked at the beginning, and she goes, you
I'd
suck.
rather date your friend.
I'd rather friend because
You have the balls to get right to the point and not ask me some stupid would you rather question where it's clearly about you.
And then he sees this hot girl, this hot blonde, smoking blonde,
He's like
across
walks
the party,
right towards her.
and he's just like, gets over there, and she's like, Joseph Talbot, and then disappears.
Which is kind of weird because she can't like interdimensional travel on her own in the rest of the movie. Like
She
it's
probably just ducked.
So, anyway, it goes to him just being an absolute loser and then going to bed and waking up and she's on top of him and he's like, what? I saw you.
Well, all right then.
Yeah.
I guess this is that kind of movie now.
And then all of a sudden, just gunshots everywhere. Dudes in suits jumping through the windows, shooting guns. There's like a whole fight thing. They have to get in his car and they drive away.
Can I ask a question? How did anybody know that he had the necklace?
I don't know, because his dad had it. Anyway, yeah,
His dad was part of the resistance, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay, so if they knew that, the next question is why did they let him keep it for so long?
I don't know.
His mom just refused.
His mom like gave it to him because he was annoying.
Well, no,
remember? That's like
Yeah, you found it and you were like, let me have it. And I was like, oh, fine.
Just don't lose it, okay?
Just don't lose it, okay?
Mom, listen. Is there anything that you didn't tell me about the crystal Dad left for me?
What do you mean? Is that what this is all about?
Look, Mom, I need to know.
You didn't lose it.
No.
I shouldn't have given it to you. I told you when you found it in my room that you could have
Yes,
it
yes,
as
yes,
long
I
as you
know,
didn't
Mom, as long as
lose
I
it. Now, it
promise
was
not to
very
lose it, Mom, but
important
listen,
to your
I-
father. And no matter how you feel about him now, it will be important to you. I don't have time for this. I have to go.
all sorts of crazy stuff happens. A lot of stuff revolving around doors. Like he's opening a door when he's trying to get out of his room, and it's like all of a sudden a dune somewhere, and there's like some like Bedouin guy with a club riding towards him, and so he closes the door, and they go to like some weird hotel room, and then they open it up, and it's this big room, and who's there but A.T., the wise old man
Who just likes to tell.
and he's making
Joe to
balls.
shut up.
He's just making giant balls in his room.
No, they don't.
They never say what it is. He's just like here welding some giant balls. And they're like,
Alright.
the queen sent me. We need to save.
Yeah, so the blonde girl, she's the one who led Joe to AT. And it's so weird because like Laura and or is it Lauren? Laura or Laura? Laura? Laura and AT just have like conversations because they know what's going on, and Joe is just there.
He is along for the ride.
If
Not a thought between those eyes.
If us explaining it sounds like we're rushing along and you don't have enough information, that is literally the movie. He's literally just along for the ride for this, and he's like, what the hell is going on? And they're like, shut up.
Well, he doesn't even ask his first question until like 3 scenes after he meets.
Like after they fall in the ocean.
Yeah,
and
they
all this
like go
stuff.
through this whole escapade at this museum.
they finally get there. He's like, so what's going on? And they're like, shut up.
They're like, shut up. What am I gonna tell you?
You know, they fought moving suits of armor in the museum, and
Yeah,
then fell
What
through.
was that about? By the way, they never.
Almost for a second just seems racist because he's like, they're spies, and it like zooms in on just some like Mexican gardener. He's like, they are all spies, and then it's like some
A homeless woman.
homeless
And a
woman.
crow.
and a crow, and then it's like, okay, whatever. Anyway, we get introduced to the villain Ferris.
Because there's Ferris, who's the big bad, and then there's like Rebar.
Rebo or
Rebo's my favorite. I want to talk about that later.
What's so
But
we gotta wait till he's
hold on, but
enters the
I only learned Ferris's name because of the credits. By
Yeah,
the way, I
so-
never heard them say.
Yeah. Anyway, so Ferris, he's like he's like pretending to be a museum curator when they go in. He's like, "Oh, can I help you find anything?" And then Joe's like, and then it cuts, and he's like, "Yes, here's the sacred staff of destiny, and you know, it can do all sorts of magical things."
It's another plot. I don't think they ever told him what they were looking for. So
He knew because the museum guy was actually the main villain, Ferris, and. He like hypnotizes the girl, but then they get pulled out of the hypnotized with AT. He breaks it and gets the staff, and they have to fight suits of armor.
Yeah, with how overpowered Ferris seemed to be in the final fight, there is no reason they should have been able to get out of that museum alive.
there's a lot of things that Ferris lets him get away with that make no sense.
Big fight ensues. They escape by jumping into the ocean, and that's when
Through a wall.
and that's where we get like the first piece of like story, like exposition, is they get through. Oh, hey, what's going on? They're like, shut up, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna leave you, or you can get in the car. and then he's just like does like the virgin walk. He's like into the car, sits in the back
Because he refuses the call at first.
Yeah,
And then Laura.
they're like, "Will you save the universe?" And he's like, no, I want to go home."
The only time he does anything in this movie is if it has to do with the female
he's
character.
so
Laura.
down bad for this woman.
Like, well, because the guy's like, get in the car, and he's like, no, and then
the girl's
Laura's
like,
like, we
"Please."
need you, and he's like,
Okay.
Yeah, he's a big
Yes, Laura,
simp
whatever you
in
say.
This movie. He gets in the car, and then they drive like 2 feet, and then they slam on the brakes, and the guy's like, "Actually, we're interdimensional aliens, and we're fighting this warlord guy, and we gotta stop him." And does that make sense? And he's like in the back, he's like,
30 minutes into the 90-minute run
that scene is
time.
really funny because they mount the curb like 3 times. Like if you watch it, they go up and then they go down and they go up, and then he stops and he's like, okay.
"Okay, let me tell you everything." Tells them everything, and then they're like, "Does that make sense?" And he's in the back, and he's like, "Yeah." And then they like drive away, and
Yeah.
Oh, man. What happens after they drive away?
They go to the desert and then they go to the crossroads.
yeah,
right.
they go to the desert,
And then, and then,
it's like,
So,
and then they open the portal.
real quick, what we keep talking about and then storytelling. And what this means is when you're writing a story, if something just happens to the character and they're in a situation that they didn't choose to get in, that is usually an and then situation, which isn't like the worst thing because, you know, sometimes ambushes happen, but most storytelling and good stories are because of character actions. You need to let your character make decisions.
yeah, so
and
because of or therefore.
yes, and Joe doesn't really do that except for he gets in the car because he's horny.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you can summarize this whole story. This man is just whipped for Laura.
Yeah, he does nothing to win her over either. Like, there's no reason that she should.
Yeah, he's the most like uncharismatic dude in this whole movie.
We were talking like if this whole movie was just redone but with Jack Black as the main character.
It would've been
they had
so much better.
It would have been a classic.
Cult classic here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be talking about this movie right now because it probably would have been.
See,
I bet most Jack Black fans have never even seen this movie.
Yeah.
I found this movie at a thrift store, and I really want to know how somebody came into possession of this movie in order to get it to a thrift store. Because
You said it released in theaters, right?
I think it released in theaters,
Crazy.
which is weird because it opens with credits without anything going on before.
Yeah.
And ends with credits.
Twice.
We have opening and
The
closing.
opening credits suck, by the way. It's the same like 5 shots, just like flipped and.
All right, so they get to the Crossworlds, and then they get ambushed. Is that what happened?
Yeah, they get ambushed by like every single bad guy from Raiders of the Lost
he's
Ark.
being like he's being like a little bitch in the Crossworlds too, where he's like takes 2 steps and he's like,
I'm gonna throw up,
"I'm gonna throw up. I feel sick."
and it never happens again.
Yeah.
Like,
If you throw up here, you turn inside out. Because I guess the Crossworlds are like an in-between dimension, is what they were saying.
purgatory.
Yes, this is another purgatory. This is another Despiser Extended Universe movie.
I think I'm gonna puke.
Don't puke around here. You'll turn inside out.
They get ambushed, and he gets knocked out of the Crossworlds and back into the regular world. And for some reason, his car that they escaped in the beginning when they were getting shot up, they like rear-ended into a car and it got shot up. For some reason, he comes back and it's fine. But then the police come and arrest him for a hit and run, is what they say.
Yeah.
So
His apartment's also fine, by the
Yeah,
way. The window
because
got
when
exploded earlier,
when-
but it's back.
When they were backing out of the driveway while they're getting shot at, Laura being Laura backs into.
Were you going to say being a woman driver, Ashton?
Anyway, Laura backs into a car and then drives away, and so I think that's probably what they meant by a hit and run.
no, but what's funny is that when he comes back and sees everything is in its place and fine
and fixed. Yeah,
he goes, I guess it was a dream. But when the cops come to arrest him for something that happened in this alleged dream, he's like, he doesn't go, I guess it was real. He's like, okay.
So anyway, this whole thing happened with this
But
woman.
yeah.
And
How you doing? All right. Are you Joe Talbot? Maybe.
They came looking for you last night. Hit and run's a big deal, evidently.
Last night, why didn't you tell me?
I couldn't find you.
What are you talking about? We were at the party.
Dude, the party was on Wednesday.
Today's not Thursday?
Sorry.
What the hell happened to Thursday?
Have you been eating mushrooms, man?
Where you been, man? Look, this girl came over the other night, all right? She had a knife. Okay, and then I opened the door, and this guy's on a horse, all right? And then he's got a gun. I don't know if it was her boyfriend or whatever, okay? But he starts shooting up the place. And look, he shot up my... See, it could have been me, guys. You guys got the wrong guy. No hit and run here, not a scratch in my car.
That's a good excuse. I'm buying it.
Yeah.
So his Jack Black calls his mom and she bails him out and then gives the whole like, oh, she just like dodges his questions when he's like, what was the crystal? And she's like, well, you wanted it, but I'm leaving.
It was your dad's and you said you wanted it, so I told you could have it just as long as you don't lose it.
I am realizing how pointless the scene we just talked about is, because you know what happens next. He goes back home after being bailed out, goes into...
There's no reason for him to get arrested.
No, like he's going back to his apartment again where we started when he woke up.
From that scene, we only learned that his dad had the crystal.
That's
And
it.
his mom was lying to him.
Yeah, his
No, we
mom
learned that
knows
late-
seems to know something.
And there's another scene with his mom later where we could have gotten the exact same information. But anyway,
So he gets back to his house after being bailed out.
my favorite string of events in the whole movie. So this short guy named Rebo shows up and is like, hey,
Italian.
buddy, like, keep it down. Like, they're looking for you. And he's like, what? And he's like, oh, so it was real.
I need you to take me to AT.
He's like, they captured that girl you were with. Like, they got her. They're going to trade her for the gem. Like, you got to help us. And he's like, oh, but like, he's like, I don't know what to do. They're like, well, he's like, what about AT, the mentor guy? He's like, can you take me to his house? He's like, I already tried going to his house earlier.
We forgot to mention.
Yeah.
So he goes to the hotel. Okay, this is funny.
We have to go back. We gotta go back.
He comes back and he spends his whole day after he gets out of, gets bailed from jail. Mm-hmm. He's like trying to like find them again. So he goes to the hotel and he opens it up and he just opens the door. And there's like he just hears a toilet flush and some like old man in his like underwear. Not even like modern underwear, like the 1950s underwear where he's like in boxers and a tank top, walks out. There's not a word said. He just stands there,
leaves.
Expressionless, and then turns around and like walks. And it's like,
He doesn't
it's
even
like
close the
5
door.
seconds, doesn't close the door. He just walks and gets in his car and
Yeah.
drives off.
So the mentor character lives at the motel, but it's like a magic door. So like when they first went and opened it, it was like a giant like
The warehouse we were
with
talking
the
about with the balls.
the
Yeah.
balls.
yeah. But then he goes back and it's just some dude's apartment. So when he comes home and this Rebo guy's like, do you know where AT lives? He's like, yeah, like I went to AT's house, but
He wasn't.
he wasn't there. And he's like, well, you probably did it wrong, so let's go back. And he's like, okay, I'll take you there. And then when they're leaving, the goons come back, shoot and kill Rebo.
Yeah, they're like behind the car, like just at the beginning of the scene, they're like taking cover behind the car. And Rebo's like, all right, let's go, buddy. And then gets up and is like,
Yeah, and gets shot. Basically walks into the bullets, and then there's a chase, and he goes in the alley and he avoids the cars, and then he has to walk.
oh, the car hears him too. That's a,
He knocks over a trash.
over like a lid of a trash can, and the car stops. The car's like,
With their windows closed.
the
and
windows are
everything.
up when it passes by, so it's like, I don't know.
it's
They're
so
like,
dumb.
Also, side note: the aspect ratio for this movie is horrible. But
Yeah.
so basically, he then has to walk to the guy's house. Because he's like, maybe I should just try the door again. So he walks all the way back, which they've gone there twice in this movie so far. And it's been established it takes at least the time for it to go from day to night or from night to day.
Yeah, like 12
for them
hours.
to get there. So he has to walk all the way back there after Rebo gets killed. And he opens the door and it works this time. And it is the warehouse. He's like, we got to save her. But just as he's talking to the guy, guess who shows up? None other than Rebo, who double crossed him and has
the biggest gun.
has a
He's
bunch
a
of
tall,
goons.
he's a short guy
But
too.
the thing that cracks me up about it is that Rebo used Joseph to lead him to AT's hideout. So he like he died, and then they followed him there. But he was gonna take him there to begin with because he was.
Yeah, it wasn't like, no, I can't show you, and then it happened, and he died, so they could like trick him to go. No, it was
we would have willingly taken him.
Joe was like, yeah, I'll literally take you there. And
Let's
then they
go.
did this whole thing where they like killed Rebo. So it's like, why did Rebo even do that in the first place?
It's like, oh, I did not think that he
They're like,
actually.
whoa, Rebo, weren't you shot? And he's like, smoking mirrors.
I'm telling you, my theory was that they had it orchestrated beforehand, and Rebo didn't have time to let his men know that, like, hey, it's okay. He's actually going to take me there. We don't call it off.
So stupid.
Anyway.
You mentioned the aspect ratio. Do you remember when we tried to watch it in widescreen? So this disc has a full screen on one side and widescreen on the other, and we wanted to watch it in widescreen. We put it in, and it's like it's in the 4:3 frame, but they just shrunk the video.
Yeah, they cropped the 4:3 to a 16:9.
It was so
bad.
so underwhelming.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then they get captured, and they go to the hotel where Ferris lives, and you get the classic, "What are you doing here?" And they're like, "Well, we came to rescue you."
Followed by the smoothest handhold of all time.
So much.
He goes like,
She's like, "I'm a failure," and he's like, "No, you're not a failure."
not a failure.
Just look. I love that he doesn't look at her either when he grabs her
He
hand.
looks away deliberately.
This band is like all the riz of a junior high school kid.
Well, AT and Ferris have a little bit of a wizard battle.
Yeah, like the Lord of the Rings wizard battle where they're like using
Telekinesis and stuff.
telekinesis.
So Ferris has the crystal at this point, but not the scepter. And I don't know if we've established this, but they were looking for the scepter because it goes with the crystal, and it's a weapon that can presumably defeat Ferris. Ferris is in charge of a interdimensional. He's a warlord essentially, and he's already taken over.
Isn't the scepter the only way to travel between worlds? Or I guess not.
I guess not, because they've been
the other
able to
guys
do
got
it.
there without it.
So AT thinks that he steals the crystal, gets tied up, and then
Oh, they're gonna.
they're gonna execute.
Yeah, they're like putting him on top of this building over a freeway. They're like, we can't have any loose ends.
Any witnesses, and then just like this
Like
bumper to
100
bumper traffic freeway in the
300
background.
cars.
Well, not only do they say they want to kill him off so there's no more leverage, they don't kill them, and they teleport them to a playground where they're just free.
Where did he said I sent them somewhere safe or something?
Somewhere safe, and he gets clocked by a little girl.
Yeah, it goes into like a coma.
What even, man?
Yeah.
Anyway, they escape, and then they go back to the.
They woke up at the mom's house where the mom's like, "I never told you because I didn't think you were ready," and
Or
then she
mature
still
enough.
doesn't tell.
It's like, well, are you ready? Am I ready now? And she's like,
No.
no. And then that's it. They like are like, okay, cool, we're leaving.
Why didn't you tell me, Mom?
You weren't ready?
When was I gonna be ready, huh? When they killed me?
Your father thought it best
Look,
not
I'm not
to
asking about
tell
the
you
father,
until
okay?
you were mature enough to handle it, and you weren't. You never showed me you were ready. Sometimes I wondered if you ever would be.
Yeah, and so they go back. They free AT.
We still don't know what his dad's involvement is. Like,
At
is he
this
from
point.
another
Yeah,
dimension?
the dad. I guess the dad was like the same job he was. I guess.
So they free AT, and then they go to retrieve the staff, which AT has put in the trunk of a car in a junkyard and rigged with a grenade, 24 sticks of dynamite, and a tank of gasoline to go off if someone not authorized opens the trunk.
Yep.
And
And the goons follow them there.
the
Well, because they break into the hotel to free AT, and it's the easiest prison break ever.
Yeah,
there was like nobody there.
and so it's like,
They had like some weird like Twilight Zone like.
oh yeah, they like
They-
fell through the elevator. That was
Yeah,
weird.
the elevator, and then he's like, "You have to believe the floor is real."
like some pan kind of thing where they gotta believe there's food.
believe in the floor. What do you mean believe in the floor? Ah.
They follow him to the junkyard, and then the other two escape, and then AT sacrifices himself.
Yeah, he sets off the trap.
Yeah, well, actually, how it was gonna go is AT's like, they're like, open it up then if the staff's in the trunk, and he's like,
Actually,
you do it.
you do it, and the guy's like,
Okay. And he was going to open the trunk, and I think the plan was for like AT to slip away.
And they get blown up.
But Joseph, the idiot, just starts.
Has the staff. He puts the crystal in the staff, and he starts like just beating the wall like it's like Minecraft. He's like,
And it's like this. What kind of
like,
metal would we call that?
Why would it work? And then they like hear him.
They're like right over the. They're like 5 cars away.
They're like right around the corner, and so Rebo and his men hear it, and so AT has to blow himself up in order to save their lives.
My main goal is to blow up and then act like I don't know nobody.
And they get out and they walk down the street in LA. And this buff Italian guy pulls up in a car and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing in the street, you son of a bitch?" And they're like, "Sorry, we need your car." They proceed to beat the shit out of this man and then just steal his car.
Who was just minding his own business. They just walked in front of him.
He's like such a Chad. He's just like, hey.
Yeah, he's like huge.
What are you doing sitting in the road?
What are you in the road? And then they're like, "Sorry."
Like, I don't know what's funnier, like the fact that like he got out of their car, or like the fact that they were able to take him. He beat Joseph beat him up.
Well, they needed to steal the car.
I thought there was gonna be a joke where like they tried to steal the car, but then the giant dude gets out and they're like, maybe not. And they go get another car, but no.
Anyway, they steal the car because they have to go back to the desert, and they do, and he opens the portal to Crossworlds. You know what's really weird? That's the only time there's like a load screen for interdimensional travel.
Yeah,
like
they do not explain what the parameters for travel is, because they just go all over the place afterwards. Like,
yeah, so they're in Crossworlds again. They get ambushed again, and when all hope is lost, who appears but AT and Rebo
teleported in the middle of the explosion
so
with Rebo,
with
and then
Rebo, it's like fire appears.
Then Rebo gets like silly strings.
Yeah,
he's
like he blew me up, boss.
I gotta bring up real quick the time between the explosion, stealing the car, and driving to the desert.
It was like 40 minutes.
Yeah, when they step through the dimension, there's an explosion behind them.
It's still going.
Oh man,
he's like AT's like a cool space wizard guy. So. But anyway, yeah, they come through. Rebo's like, "Hey, boss, but he blew me up. He blew me up, boss." And he's like, "I know. That's why you're fired." And it's like, you think it's gonna be like some pun, like he's gonna like explode or burst into flames. No, he just like gets gets unwound. Like, you know when you like pull a little piece of like the label on a water bottle,
like Mr. Fantastic in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, he just like gets unwrapped and just.
Speaking of Multiverse of Madness, you get the coolest multiverse fight scene at the end of this movie. They're going everywhere from Northern California. Just kidding. They're in Southern California and Southern California and Southern California.
They're just teleporting around LA, just beating the crap out of each other on like buses and busy streets, and no one's realizing. And he beats up AT, and AT's like, "Oh, I'm gonna die."
Well, you remember when he first started that fight? Like when AT said, "No, we're gonna fight," and then like steps
and then
forward,
goes to, like a side like Mortal Kombat thing. And he's like,
the most awkward cut I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh my word!
So the AT and Ferris fight, and then Ferris beats up AT, and so AT's down, and so then who picks up the rod? Joe picks it up, and he's like,
Joe Biden,
just
he's
an
like,
average Joe.
I'm just gonna fight you. I'm gonna fight you, and he like swings, and the staff's like going through Ferris. He's like,
they don't ever explain why sometimes he can't hit him and why sometimes he can.
Yeah,
I think it's if he's expecting it.
Oh, and I forgot to mention when AT and Ferris were fighting. Ferris hits him with this like piss rod. That's how he like incapacitates.
That's why he like kills
He has
him.
this rod, and he points it, and it's like this yellow liquid just starts spewing out.
I think it's supposed to be like lava or something.
Ferris has the shield. He's like, oh, then the shield breaks. And
AT has it.
But anyway, yeah, he gets incapacitated with the piss rod, and then it cuts to like a sequence because like Joe's like, I'm gonna fight him. And so he goes and like tries to fight him, and then Ferris just goes through it and just like beats him up in every corner of Los Angeles. I swear, he's like teleporting into like the weird back rooms and like
They go to that weird like cube.
cube, and he's like slamming him against the walls. They go into like the bell, like this giant like Asian bell thing, and he's like slamming him into that bell, and this whole fight.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
But Joe wins the fight by just stabbing Ferris.
He holds the rod in the middle of him, so then when Ferris like comes back together, it's just like inside of him. He's like, ooh, and he's like, I bet that felt pretty real, didn't it? And then pulls it out, and then Ferris just like
implodes.
It's like sucked into this thing. It like turns into like the everything bagel from everywhere all at once.
All multiverses connected.
Yeah.
It's true.
And
But they win.
they win, and then
And nobody
like,
really cares.
They're like, we got to take the staff and the crystal, the resistance.
So they go to the
resistance.
resistance dimension, which
There's
is just
like-
a bunch of tents.
It's just a bunch of tents on this weird alien world, and they're like there, and the queen of the aliens was like,
They're just humans.
yeah,
just
they're
live
just
in a
like
different
humans,
dimension,
but
man.
they're like in a different dimension.
On the back of the box, does it say aliens?
I have no idea.
Grab the box. You got it?
You don't you move a muscle, Jason.
Oh, so that's nice. There's also 33 chapters in this movie.
Yeah, the movies, all the scenes are like every new scene, I swear, is its own chapter on the menu.
Doesn't say aliens?
It does not say aliens. It just says from a far off galaxy.
That's an alien.
I was really hoping that
night alien riders on horseback shoot up his bedroom.
they were supposed to be
not on
aliens.
horseback. There was the one guy with the club.
He did not have a gun, though. the guy.
Yeah, and he did not shoot.
Dang, man.
Dang. So anyway,
That's false advertising.
I want my $2
the
back,
queen,
DI.
and the queen's like, you could have jeopardized the whole world. And they're like, yeah, but we won though. And she's like, yeah, you're right. Good job. Essentially. And then they're like, are you going to join us? And AT's like, yeah, I'll join you guys. And then they're like, are you going to join us, Joe? And he's like, nah. And then he's like, are you off weekends? And then it
Like,
cuts
do
to-
transdimensional warriors have weekends off?
The funniest thing is when the queen is like getting mad at Lara and she's like, you disobeyed an order. And he comes in, you think he's about to like make a difference. He's like, queen, with all due respect,
You would have done
maybe
the same
just
thing.
no. He was like, maybe just don't be so hard on her. It's just like
No, he also
I'm sure
says
you
at
would
the
have
end,
done the same thing.
and then she says, "No, I wouldn't." Did you hear that?
No.
He's like, yeah, you would. I'm sure
You
in
would-
her situation, you would have done the same thing. She's like,
No, I wouldn't.
Foolish to the point of jeopardizing the
Entire resistance.
Look, excuse me, Miss Queen. Okay, it is her fault, but look, try not to be so hard on her, all right? I mean, you probably would have done the same thing.
I don't think so.
But you're right. I won't be so hard on her.
Anyway, so this man who has no riz, he wins though. It cuts to him waking up in his bed, and we're like, oh, was it a dream? And then he turns over, and Laura's like in a towel, just like looking.
She's not even.
at
No, she's in the freaking bed
in
sheets.
the
Like
bed sheets,
and not
she's
even-
just wrapped up, and she's not even looking out the window. She's like staring at the curtain. And they like, and then he goes to the window and like opens it up, and they both look out, and it's like Jack Black, who's like,
just like.
and then
stays
he's
like
they
that.
must have heard us last night. And then it, like the last shot is Jack Black and Stu just looking up at the window in like just with their mouths on the
Just
floor.
complete disbelief that this guy could go to sleep with a woman.
And then yeah, and that's the end of the movie. It paid off, dude. Being a simp paid off for him.
Did.
Yeah.
You just have to find someone from another galaxy.
So
Dang, man. I just can't get over the Jack Black and Stu were just looking.
standing in the driveway. Like,
How long were they there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Nothing better to do.
that's what I do when my friends finally score. I just wait out in their driveway. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway,
So this was Crossworld.
that was Crossworlds.
Jason's wedding night. He
Fellas.
just looks out the window of the hotel, and you and I are just sitting in the parking lot like.
I look out, I peel open the curtains in Belize, and you're just down at the beach looking up. Oh, man. Any final thoughts about Crossworlds, or should we go into giving it a score out of 33?
Yeah, let's give it a score.
Yeah, I'll do scoring and final thoughts.
Speaking of the score, the music was good.
It was like
wasn't
very
bad,
Halo-esque music, where it was like,
Except for the
the
credit
like
song.
drums, like.
I'm not gonna go first. I always go first with my score.
The credit music is cringe, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crescent music was like, the crystal drops.
Yeah, it was yikes. All right, so scores. How it works here is we give them scores out of 33 because the highest a bad movie can be is 33.
The movie had 33 chapters.
What the crap?
Give it 33 out of 33 for each chapter.
I think.
The first 10 minutes have 6 chapters.
Oh man. So this movie is just very confusing. I'll go first if that wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
It was pretty well made, like technically speaking, but the story was very dumb and a lot of the stuff was redundant. Let's see, my camera's gonna die. I give it 16 out of 33.
It's probably got like a 10 out of 33 for me. The lore was very generic, and they don't even bother to explain it to you. The character just like I was telling them the whole time, like every time the main character was on screen, it's like, I hate this guy. Like I want to punch this man. He just seems like just annoying, and he's just like a simp the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably give it an 8 out of 33. I agree with everything said. I think this is definitely... I could probably rewatch every movie we've seen so far, and I have already rewatched both Despiser and Dragonfire.
Right.
I could rewatch Voodoo Apocalypse one day. This one I would never want to rewatch.
I'd watch the Jack Black scenes and probably the just the whole situation with Rebo taking him away and coming back, because that was funny.
I don't know.
I saw the main guy from Dragonfire in a Lifetime movie the other day, and it was about some girl trying to seduce her friend's dad.
Yeah,
he was the dad in it.
Oh,
yeah.
It was kind of hot.
So the average score for this movie is 11.3 out of 33. So, middle of the road bad movie.
And that's it, folks. Guess we're done.